Our first talk this morning is going to be given by Christina Martin and Vanessa Simmons. Christina Martin is the Environmental Health Program Coordinator at Little Bighorn College. She's a member of the Crow Environmental Health Steering Committee, a group of community members involved in researching the ground and surface water in and around the Crow Reservation. Vanessa Simons is the Associate Professor at Montana State University. She uses community-based participatory research to design, development, and implement strength-based, community-centered outreach strategies in partnership with Native communities. So please welcome them up for our very first presentation of today.
Thank you for having us today. We're very honored to be invited to speak here. Today we're going to talk about, I'm Crow and Blackfeet, and I've been working with Christine since 2014 on projects on the Crow Reservation. And today we're going to talk about kind of some of the lessons learned from our project, and particularly our work with youth and how over these past 5 years it has evolved, their participation in our project has evolved. So, Christine, we'll start.
Good morning. Thank you for being here to listen to our talk. So I'm Christine Martin. I'm from Crow Agency, Montana, and I work at Little Bighorn College. And so with that, we just wanted to say that Crow Agency is in South Central Montana. We have 14,000 enrolled members with about 8,000 living on the reservation. And of that 8,000, about half of it, 40% is youth. So just like to many tribal nations, to the Crow people, water is sacred. As we grow up, we build this relationship with water, and we're always around water. And so we want to teach our youth just how to respect water, how to take care of water, so we have it for our future generations. And so that's just what this. And so we have a lot of types of water. So we basically work with surface water, which is like the rivers and springs. And then so we also kind of do the watershed and the groundwater.
So this picture, that blue line is supposed to be our river of life. So this kind of talks about the pathway of our project. So it began in 2014. I came back to Montana State University as an assistant professor, and I was invited to meet with some of my family and some community members at Crow, including the Crow Environmental Health Steering Committee, they've been doing work on the Crow Reservation for over 20 years maybe, examining the different contaminants in the different water sources. And so my background is in health literacy and community-based participatory research. And so I met with them to see what are the strengths that I could bring to that partnership. And at first we traveled over from Bozeman, which is about 3 hours away, and my graduate student and I were talking about, we have this great idea. We were going to build off of another project that had been done where you educate adults in the community about water quality, and we would kind of have them be lay health advisors, and they would help people test their water and learn about their wells. So we had a whole plan on our drive over. We got to our meeting with the Crow Environmental Health Steering Committee, and something just happened. We just started talking about youth. We just started talking about some of our community members were talking about how they wanted this work to go on, to continue, how they wanted to inspire youth to be interested in this topic, to take care of their resources, to also learn about the cultural importance of water. We talked about how children can be agents of change. We can teach our children things like smoking, how kids have learned about smoking and they go home and tell their parents to quit smoking or to wear their seatbelts. So maybe in our project we could tell the children about water, and they could go home and talk to their parents and teach their parents about the importance of water and protecting our water resources. And so our whole idea was completely turned around, but it was actually something that I was really excited about. And so we met with the Crow Agency Public School principal, and he was so excited that he went out and got another grant to get our project going that summer, even before we were really ready to get going, before we had measures or activities. So we call that our pre-pilot summer. And then that was our first camp in 2015, and we kind of evolved over time. We've done a Photovoice after-school project, and then we've had children become even more involved. to become more like co-researchers. So teaching them more about research, all the research that's going on in their community, and having them come up with their own projects. And so I just wanted to show this. This is one of the Western frameworks that we were looking at and thinking about. This is kind of this continuum of how youth can be participants or partners in participatory research. What's their level of participation? So as our program has evolved, I've thought about, and Christine and I have talked about, how do we make sure those bottom three, tokenism, decoration, manipulation, those are when children are not involved in the project, really. But we've talked about moving our children through these stages so it becomes more their project. They take more ownership. They become leaders. And so this idea that we had it came from adults, it came from our steering committee, but how do we move to engage youth and get them interested in this topic and working on their own? So we work with water quality, as Christine mentioned, and when we first started this project, it was really difficult for us to think about what are the messages and the things that children can do? What are tangible things that we can have the youth do? The water quality issues on Crow are complex, and the mitigation strategies are expensive. And so we really struggled that first year thinking about what are the things that we can teach children, and we were starting out with fourth graders, so what are the things we can teach children, that they can actually do something about in their community?
So for the first year, when they just got the money and the funding, we had a summer camp that very first year. And so that's when we just kind of introduced the rivers and the surface waters and how we kind of want to align it with the Western culture along with Crow culture. And so we just kind of introduced all the things. And then we worked with the fourth graders, so it was kind of a little hard trying to get our message across. And so it was really just a learning experience for that first year, our first summer camp. And then so we really kind of had this idea of how we wanted them to be able to present what we're teaching them, or to be able to share messages with their family and friends in a confident manner. And so this picture just shows how we got all the kids to stand up and present in front of each other, and they were all really nervous. And it was really their first time kind of doing something like that. So we just kind of wanted to foster that and help them. For the year 2 summer camp, we just kind of wanted to expand our interactive literacy. And so this is just letting the children being able to have more hands-on of the skills that we're teaching them. So knowing how much water is in the body, and then being able to draw that and be interactive with it, and be able to hang it up and then talk about it to their parents and students and family members. We also did a newsletter, and so in the newsletter we made sure that it was appropriate and being able that both the children and the parents were able, comfortable to read it. And so we had a diagram at the top. So that just helped kind of explain what we were talking about, and it was really simple. And then on the bottom of that, we had the message that we wanted to get across. And then at the bottom, we had a sleeve to show that the child shared with the parent. And so the whole purpose of the newsletter was just to, what we teach them, know that they're able to take it home and teach it to their family.
And so the first pre-pilot camp was a lot more what we call functional literacy, so it was basic science and stories of water. We had elders come in and tell stories. And then that second year, as Christine mentioned, we expanded a little bit more and had the students learning stuff through camp about water, and then they were supposed to go home and share it with their family. But still, it was very much guided by us. And so that second year, we decided to incorporate a Photovoice project because we thought this was one way to get the students more involved, to take a little bit more ownership of the program. And so it was also a way for us to evaluate, kind of see what the students were learning. And so we forgot to mention that these guys enrolled in 2015 and as fourth graders, and so we follow them through summer camp and after school. So these guys here these are fifth graders in their second year of the program. And so we're kind of trying to see if we ask them what's important about water, why is water important in your community, and then go out and take pictures. And so that's what they did in that second year. And it kind of helped us give them a little bit more control of the project that we were working on. And so this is our group of youth here showing the pictures. The first thing they did was to kind of get them comfortable as we had them take pictures about tell me about yourself. What are some things that are important to you? So a lot of people have pictures of their family, the land, their ancestors. And then this is a mirror. We had them get up in front of each other and talk about the pictures they had taken. And then we had the Photovoice exhibit displayed in the tribal building. It was up there for like 6 months. I don't know, they didn't let us take it down. We tried to take it down. And then we also did an event at the school. We showed it. And we also got the children involved. We trained them in community research. And we had them actually, I think, Christine, you should tell them more about the surveys that they did. Remember when you...
Oh yeah, and then so we had our after-school program, and then the same day was a parent-teacher conference. And so we asked the children if they would want to go out there and talk to their parents and do some surveys. And 2 of them were really eager. So those 2 boys went out and they just talked to the parents and handed out surveys and just talked about what their project was this year. And so it was a really great turnout. And they really liked it. So I think we're going to do it again for this year's parent-teacher conference, just to give them more interaction.
And then the second part of that Photovoice project at the end of the school year was we had them think about what were some of the issues that they could tackle in their community. And so we had them brainstorm ideas, and then we voted on them. So you could vote for the top 2 that you wanted to do. And so one of the things they wanted to do was to put garbage cans around the reservation in places where people would use them. So we decorated trash cans and put them around. And then we also put together a water barrel for the Little Bighorn College community garden. So in the last couple of years, we wanted to kind of go even further. And so what we did, moving up Heart's participation ladder, we wanted to think about how could we empower youth, how could we get them more excited about what we were doing. And one of the things we thought about was talking more about having them as co-researchers. That Photovoice project kind of helped us get to this point. And so in that third year, we had them come up with their own research questions. So we told them what research is, and then we had them think about what are the things related to water that you would want to research. And so they were really interested in, because they come from different parts of the reservation, so they were interested in comparing who has the best water quality. And so we did taste tests, we did pH tests. What was the other test?
Total dissolved
solids. And they had a lot of fun in that. And so then we had them develop posters, and they presented that to their parents at the end of the school year. We've also, in the summer camp program, we had them do more of a examination of actual E. coli. So we actually did that in the school year and the summer camp. That's probably the thing they like the most, is where we have them testing water sources. So they get to choose the water sources they want to test. And we use E. coli, kind of ones that are good for students. And then they make hypotheses and they compare. We also had them come up with survey questions for their parents about, did you get your well tested? How much water do you drink? Why or why not? And we did an analysis of that data. We presented, so I showed them the results from the surveys they did, and then had them talk about, so why do you think your friends drink this much water, or don't drink water, or drink soda pop? And so we have some results from those as well. And then after every after-school program and every summer camp, we do presentations which are open to the community. We'll show you some pictures of in a second.
So throughout the camp, we again wanted to test for E. coli. So we came up with the first one. We did the IDEX, so it's more advanced a method. And then so we were like, maybe this is too hard. So we went back and we tried the Petri dish method. And that one was kind of a little easier. So this is what this picture shows. And this is where we had the grade school student along with the college mentor. And so that was a really good combination. And then this past year, we did another E. coli test where you just put it in the bag and you don't need an incubator. And so we found out that the Petri dish is the best method to use. And then along with our project, during the summer camp, we take the students on a field trip. And this year we went to Pretty Eagle Point, which is by the Bighorn Canyon. And we had someone come in, and he was with the Tribal Historic Preservation. And so he had a lot of back history and a lot of stories that he told the students. And so we always try to keep that in line with whatever we teach in the Western culture. We always try to bring in the Crow culture as well. And so we bring in elders to talk about stories. And we have a really great time with it.
So this is a picture of I think this is the first year that we were having them do the research poster. So as you can see from that picture, it's kind of a boring poster. We kind of did it last minute trying to figure out what we were going to do. But we had the kids, this is where the kids are presenting their water quality results. So it kind of has their research question, their hypothesis, their methods, and then what they found. And this was an important community event, though, because we actually had a lot of parents interested in what we were looking at and coming up to us after and asking about getting their well tested, which is important because half of the community members do have wells that need to be tested regularly. And then the other thing is there was a post on Facebook right after this where one of the moms was talking about their child being part of Guardians and thinking about the water quality in their community and what can we do about it. But we did evolve, so this is just this year. And this time, as Christine mentioned, we had this model where we had high school students and tribal college students being mentors during our program. And we also, so Julius is there in the middle, and he's one of the ones that has been with us since, he's a 7th grader now, so he's the one that's been with us since he was in 4th grade. And so we have kind of this multi-generational mentoring model that we found has taken a lot of burden off of us because they like to work with each other. We can kind of teach the high schoolers the week before the activities and have them go through them so that they're able to facilitate them during the summer camp. And then Julius, people like Julius who've been with us since they were 4th graders, they also know a lot of the activities, and so they're also able to kind of serve as mentors to the younger 5th and 6th graders who come to our camps. So as you can see, this poster in the background, we gave them more leeway, we gave them more time. So we had the high schoolers, and we also incorporated more of the cultural aspect this year. So we had the high schoolers that week before pick a spring site and go kind of do some research on what's the background of the site, what's the cultural significance of that site. And then they came to camp and taught that to the youth, and as well as we did the water testing, which everybody loves to do, the E. coli water testing. And so their posters, that's supposed to be the bad E. coli that he's showing. So they were able to talk about E. coli as well as the stories that are associated with that spring.
Another part we did was we took Julius and we went to the National Indian Health Board. And so we did a presentation like this, and then we had him come up too and talk about his experience with the camp and what he liked, what he envisions for it. And so it was a really great turnout. And the audience really responded well to him. And so we just kind of want to do more stuff like this with the Guardians and get them prepared to present in front of large audiences. We also had a movie camp. And so we had someone come in from Los Angeles, and he was like a native movie producer. And so he came in and he helped the kids make a movie. And so we made a documentary, one of why I like to be native, and then just another one about what they got to pick out. And so they kind of had more control over it. They picked addressing E. coli in the river and how we could maybe stop it or just kind of minimize it. And so we took them on field trips. So we took them to the TV station, the radio station. We took them on a college campus tour just to get a background and hands-on experience. And so we had a really great time with that. And then just how would you get a career in media? So that was a great turnout for that one. And so the next thing is just maintaining engagement. So trust is a really big issue. Building trust with the community, building trust with the Guardians, always being available and answering questions is a big one. So also recruiting members, so having that trust and having the parents trust you to send their students to you is a big one. And then being able to answer questions about water, answer questions about bacteria and contaminants. So just always being engaged with the community is a big one. Did you want to add anything to that one? Very good.
I think the other thing is like recruiting, so some of it.
Oh yeah, so recruiting's a big one. What is the best method to recruit? And then how we just stayed with one fourth grade and followed them. Do we want to add everybody and then just like always mixing it up and stuff? So just again, building that trust with the community is a big one. I guess it just requires you to always be there and be available to the community. So we see people at the gas station, or when I work for the water quality, we go out and do house calls and we visit with the homeowners and test wells. And so just being able to communicate with them is a big one. Showing that your project benefits the community is another big one. So it has to be beneficial and have meaning to the community. And so I think this project has a lot of meaning to our community. That's why we've been able to keep it going and sustain it. And then again, just being able to sustain the project for the community.
Wait, stay there. Also, this one, so we're also talking about kind of thinking about what are the expectations of each partner. So there is expectations that we have for publishing from the university, but also we need to take time to develop these relationships to make sure people have told me they want to make sure that I represent MSU, even though I don't think necessarily that I represent MSU. When I go to the Crow community, people have said that I do, and I need to think about, I don't want to go in and say that, oh, Guardians is MSU and we're doing all this stuff. This really is a partnership, and it's amazing what Little Bighorn College has done for us and what the Crow Agency Public School, like they provide us a space to use, they provide us with
Transportation.
Yep. We don't want to drive around. We have a really great bus driver that takes the bus up into the mountains. She's amazing. And so one of the things that we think about is part of Indigenous research is our responsibility. So our role in this community, our role in this project, we want to make sure, as Christine said, that this is valuable to the community, that we're addressing issues that are important to the community. We want to make sure that our program is conducted in a culturally centered manner. So we meet with our steering committee every month. We go over everything that we're doing with them. We have them, they suggest people who need to come in and talk to our students who they think would be important people. And then another thing is, this is funded through the Center for American Indian and Rural Health Equity at Montana State University. But we have to make sure that our program is sustainable, and so we want to make sure that we can keep these summer camps going on, because we know that our communities are used to people coming in and programs disappearing, and sometimes that can be even more harmful than if the program was never there. So some of our lessons learned, determining our program goals. So one of the main things is really balancing these priorities of what our steering committee wanted to see, what were their goals, what do they want the children to learn, but also balancing it with, what are the children excited about? How do we make sure that they're getting excited about this and they're taking this project, taking ownership of this project? And that is affected by the ages of the participants we've kind of seen. So one of the ways that we've been able to impact that is through this mentor model that we've developed. So that's just really been, I have to say that again, it's been really great to have these high schoolers and these, and then have the middle schoolers. So having this multi-generational group of students to work with. So they're all learning from each other. And so it's also good because even when I bring over undergraduates from Montana State University as well, and our high school mentors and tribal college mentors have talked about how great it is for them to meet these undergraduates from MSU, to develop those relationships, to know somebody over at MSU when they want to maybe go over there. And the second thing is the student follow-up. So that's also been really helpful in getting students engaged, getting them more interested, kind of building their capacity to do research. So following up these students since fourth grade. So we're hoping to keep working with them, meeting with them over the school year, getting them involved in our summer camp for next year. Do you want to add anything else about
Again, just recruiting the youth, so starting early. So this year we want to get into the high schools early and do a couple projects with the high schoolers just to spark their interest. And also with the youth, so going into the middle schools and intermediate and presenting on just like the water cycle or the watershed, or just sparking their interest. So that's a big one.
So those are our main lessons learned. We want to acknowledge our partners at Crow Agency Public School, Grant Bulltail at the Crow Tribe Cultural Committee, Little Bighorn College, Montana State University and our steering committee, our funding from the Center for American Indian and Rural Health Equity, and then these are just some references. Thank you.